Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. We have to talk about the game that we all saw last night on Thursday Night Football. Kirk Cousins throwing for over 500 yards. Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looking explosive on offense until they weren't. So many things happened in this football game, and we got to talk about them all. We got a game recap. The Atlanta Falcons snatched the game away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with a 36-30 overtime win. Kirk Cousins goes 42 of 58 with 509 passing yards and 4 touchdowns, and he becomes the first quarterback to throw for over 500 yards since 2021. Let's give a round of applause for Kirk Cousins and what he did in last night's football game, because it can't go understated. I've been wondering, where is this Atlanta Falcons offense? And I saw it all last night. Zach Robinson, Kirk Cousins, everybody acclimated within this offense. You get a round of applause from me because I saw ball distribution. I saw this team trying to get into the quick game. I saw them going deep a little bit. I saw everything I wanted to see from this offense and utilizing those top tier weapons. Also, we got to talk about impact players because there were a lot of them for the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, 12 receptions, 154 yards, and a touchdown. We're gonna talk a little bit more about Drake London in this game. Darnell Mooney, he's beginning to separate himself. Is that true number 2 receiver beside Drake London? And you can even say, okay, these guys are equally as important to this offense. Darnell Mooney is just that guy where you put him in man coverage, you get him in his own look, he's going to shake the corner that's in front of him. Jamel Dean had his hands full in this football game because Darnell Mooney, he's slithery, he's slippery, he gets in and out of his breaks, he can run routes with the best of them. 9 receptions, 105 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Daryl Hodge, where does he even come from? 2 catches, but the biggest catch of the night, a 45-yard game-winning touchdown, and it's just man coverage. They show a different look. They run man coverage after the snap. Zion McCollum had a very, very good game. Almost had an interception in this game, missed the tackle. And I think for Daryl Hodge, the reason that you also make a big play like you did, you have those fresh legs. You rotate into the game as one of those 3rd and 4th receivers on the depth chart. Now it's overtime. Everybody's gas. Zion McCollum, he's been fighting with Drake London all night. You got Jamel Dean on the other side. He's been fighting with Darnell Mooney all night. You plug in Daryl Hodge, he gets a big-time touchdown. Going to the flip side, Baker Mayfield. And we're going to talk about this a little later. But I think looking at this Tampa Bay game, they had a good game. You have to close the game in the final minutes. They did not do that. Baker Mayfield on the night, 19 of 24, 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also, he added in some scramble yards, had 42 yards on the ground. So looking at that for Baker Mayfield, big time game, just couldn't get it done in the final minutes. Rachaad White, 10 carries, 72 yards. Mike Evans, 5 receptions, 62 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big time game. So now we got to talk about our keys to victory and really looking at how did the Atlanta Falcons get this thing done. Now, for me, there's 3 keys to victory, 3 big reasons that the Atlanta Falcons won this football game. And I want to start off with the most simple one, making the biggest plays in the biggest moments. They did it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not do it. So for me, it starts really with the David Onyemata sack. You got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All of their first half drives resulted in points. So in the second half, when we come out here, we got to do something. We need it right now. So David Onyemata coming out, getting a big sack down there in the red zone. You stopped the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from making this a 2-score game. Now it's only 27-20. So all you have to do is get a touchdown to tie up the football game, or if you kick a field goal, you can still be in the football game. So I think getting that pressure down there in the red zone, that was huge. Then, now, we come back out. The Atlanta Falcons, they get the football back at the end of the 3rd. Then you get a big pass from Kirk Cousins to Ray McCloud. He goes across the middle of the field. That's a huge catch there. Then Bijan Robinson, he follows that up with a huge run. So I think getting those 2 big explosive plays. Then they get down into the red zone. And for me, these are the types of questions down the line we're going to have with the Atlanta Falcons, but it's just red zone execution. Now, they executed in this certain instance, but just looking at it, you have 3 back-to-back runs for the Atlanta Falcons once they get down in the red zone. Now, luckily, on 4th down, Darnell Mooney and Kirk Cousins, once again, just like we talked about earlier, that connection was there all night. He was connecting with all of his guys, Pitts, London, Mooney. This time it was Mooney, but you get a big 4th down conversion, and I think just looking at it, you got man coverage. It's yards after the catch. You force a missed tackle on the corner. Now you get into the end zone. Big time play to tie up the game there. Then this is where things got a little bit shaky in this football game because the Atlanta Falcons, they put together a strong drive. They were looking like they were going to tie up the football game after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went down. They got another 3 points. But you have a big drop on 3rd and 6 by Darnell Mooney. That's one of the plays where you want to have back. I think even with winning this football game, Darnell Mooney, the type of receiver that I look at him as, the type of receiver that he knows that he is, you got to catch that football. Then after that, then they get the kick block. So I think just looking at those types of things is where we got to execute here. It's something. If we don't catch the 3rd and 6, let's just make the field goal. Or we catch the 3rd and 6 and we just go on with the drive. You don't know. You probably could get 7 out of that. But things are still good because Jesse Bates is that man, and we saw that in this football game. Not only getting the forced fumble and forcing that fumble on Bucky Irvin, he had one earlier where Mike Evans recovered it. So just looking at it, he's being aggressive, and I think that's instincts. For me, when I call an athlete instinctive, it's something you really can't coach. Instincts are how you react in a moment. If we're playing football and I see you running the ball, I can't tell you when to punch out the football. I can't tell you when's the right time, what's the right angle. We could probably do some fumble drills in practice, but understand that in a game time environment, when you really need it, when you're down 3 points and you got to get the football back to your offense, that's just Jesse Bates knowing. And playing football long enough, being a playmaker, having those instincts, that's what that is. Understanding how to make the right play and how do you react athletically in certain moments. When we talk about ball skills, things of that nature, that's just instincts. And Jesse Bates had great instincts to punch out the football, but the Atlanta Falcons didn't win the football game right there. They go down. Kirk Cousins throws an interception. So you look at that and you say, okay, we had an opportunity. We had the Bucky Irvin fumble. We got the football back with some time left, and we did not capitalize there. But then the defense really clamped down. I think looking at that final drive for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they had the holding call by Graham Barton. That pushed them back a little bit. Then they really couldn't get the run game going. So you had 3 timeouts still left for the Atlanta Falcons. They used those 3 timeouts. Then they get the football back. You get a huge big-time pass by Kirk Cousins. And really in that final drive, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were being a little bit conservative. They were trying to say, okay, we're not giving you anything deep. And then, okay, once the Atlanta Falcons started to nickel and dime, they started to get down the football field with Drake London. Now we're trying to play man coverage. And I think at that point, it was too late. That's where you see Drake London win on that slant route versus Jamel Dean. Then they get in field goal range. Younghoe Koo, he kicks the field goal. Now it's 30-30. And then you get into overtime. And for me, I want to know what you guys think, but when I look at this, for me, the overtime rules it's really unfortunate. If you're the team that wins, you feel really good. If you're the team that doesn't win, you really wish you could get the football. Because looking at it, everything just seemed to be on the Atlanta Falcons side. I mean, they spiked the football with 1 second left on the clock. You're looking at it, if we don't get in the right formation, if we get a flag, that's going to cause a runoff. That's going to end the game. We have to be in the right formation. We have to have the situational awareness. This is where I go back to instincts. You have to do this repetitively, and it's just what you do in a given moment. They were instinctive enough, not even probably knowing how much time they actually had, because I think when they caught the football, they immediately got into the spike formation, but you're not seeing, okay, we got to line up. It's 1 second left. Boom. They're just doing that right there in the moment, understanding we got to get on the ball as quickly as we can. Kirk Cousins, just spike it. Let's try to get the field goal. So they got that done. Then they got the football first in overtime. And Kirk Cousins once again. Now, when I look at this for Drake London, when we talk about Drake London being special, we're starting to see an elevation, because in this game, it was finding that soft spot in his zone coverage. How many times did he do that in this football game? And then when you get him in man coverage, when you get him in man coverage looks, he still wins across the middle. He still wins over the top. So just seeing that, he's a number 1 receiver. He's being good for this football team. But like I said, Kadarius Hodge, he came into the football game. You got man coverage against Zion McCollum. He catches that football. He goes down. And I think the next key to victory that I want to talk about is just ball distribution. Getting the football to your playmakers, getting the best out of your playmakers. When you face a hyper-aggressive defense like Todd Bowles' defense, you're going to get a lot of stunts. You're going to get a lot of blitzes. You're going to get a lot of linebackers mugging in the gap. It's just exotic, unique looks. Something that when you go against a scout team, you can't really create what they're going to do. You can give certain looks and try to, replicate it and do different things in practice. But when you're lining up against Todd Bowles, when you're lining up against defenses like Brian Flores's, it's just different. And I think to see that in this game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defensive line did give the Atlanta Falcons offensive line some problems. Let's shout out Logan Hall. He had 2 big sacks in this football game. Vita Vea, absolute monster in this football game. Then you saw Levante David at the second level. He was flying around a little bit. But I think just looking at this, you got Kyle Pitts involved. You got Drake London involved. You got Darnell Mooney involved. And understanding when you go against a defense like this, I don't think they were as aggressive as they usually would be. And there's a lot of reasons for that. It's the receiving core that you look at when you talk about the Atlanta Falcons. There's a lot of weapons. Do we really want to run cover 1? Do we really want to run cover 0? A lot of different variables when we talk about Drake, Darnell, and Kyle Pitts. So I think that affected it. Then when they got into the 2 high shells, when they ran cover 2, the linebackers, KJ Britt. Like I said, Levante David made some big time plays, but he was had in coverage as well. You had Drake London. He's running to that intermediate, that second window that we always talk about with quarterbacks. He's always there. And you had Kyle Pitts getting down the field. Darnell Mooney had a lot of wins on the perimeter, but he got across the middle just a little bit. And I think for me, another thing that they did, Zach Robinson, shout out to him, getting motion. And sometimes it's not about what the motion is, but it's about when the motion is. If we're going to motion right before the snap of the ball, now that changes things. Because if I'm up on the line of scrimmage, if I'm Levante David, and I'm going to explain this as simple as possible. If I'm Levante David, I'm up on the line of scrimmage. I have 3 receivers to my left side. I know I have to match 3. If 3 motions out, now I got to bump a little bit further because I got to get to the new number 3 receiver who was previously number 2. When I bump outside, because mind you, I'm mugging in the A gap. So when I take this sprint and I get on that path, now number 3 is going away from me. Number 2 comes right behind me. Those are the types of plays that you scheme up if you're Zach Robinson. That's how Drake London gets open. We're going to move out Darnell Mooney. It could be Kadarius Hodge, any receiver, or Ray McLeod. Then boom, Drake London right behind him. Big time catching that second window. So just looking at that, I liked how they distributed the ball. It wasn't the most balanced game. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers really ran the football a lot better than the Atlanta Falcons, but I think being versatile with the passing game, that allowed them to keep it rolling. And then the third reason, Kirk Cousins, first quarterback to throw over 500 yards since 2021. My hats go off to you. And I think in this game, it was all about the rhythm. It was the tempo. It was the pace, connecting with your receivers. You almost had an interception to Jordan Whitehead. He almost undercut you. You almost had an interception to Zion McCollum on the sideline. He almost got you. But outside of that, it was just a really, really good football game. You had the interception to Levante David, but I think outside of that, when you throw for 500 yards, when you throw for 4 touchdowns, you got to look at Kirk Cousins and say he was a big, big time reason for this team winning this football game. And it's not just Zach Robinson scheming up the open guy. You got to connect, and you got to have timing, especially when you're going against these 2 high looks, because Tampa's trying to clamp it down. They're trying to play from the top down. So whether it's going to be a sky look in cover 3, or it's going to be cover 2, or it's going to be 55 cover 2 with cover 2 man. These are the types of things where Kirk Cousins has to make the perfect throw. Also, just one side note, talk about the perfect throw. Baker Mayfield scrambling out to his right. Was it K'd out? And there was somebody down there in the right side of the red zone. It was just a beautiful play. But I want to get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and talk about what went wrong, kind of some areas of improvement before we wrap this thing up. And I think it's just the inability to close the football game. If you look at this football game, for the most part, they played really good football. I mean, they ran the football well with Bucky Irvin, Rachaad White, minus the fumble down there in the fourth quarter. But you look at that. They were up 7 at the start of the fourth quarter. They go back up after the Falcons scored. So now it's a 30-27 lead. Then you get the fumble. So I think when you look at all of these things collectively, you pick off Kirk Cousins, there were a lot of opportunities where you could have said, okay, let's close the football game. And I think on that final drive, before the Falcons got the football back and got a field goal, took it into overtime, you got the Graham Barton holding call. That really puts you behind the sticks. So now you're looking at 2nd and long. And I think in that situation, just run the ball because you want to force those timeouts by the Atlanta Falcons. And I think you did a good job because they spiked the football with 1 second left. That's improbable. And I think this whole game for the Atlanta Falcons was improbable. Making those big time plays, coming back in a moment like that. But I just talk about some of these things that I saw. Baker Mayfield, he's on that level now. And I think this game, even though you lost, you feel kind of better because it makes the Denver Broncos game, it makes it look more and more like an anomaly. You lost that football game. Everybody looked bad in that football game. But I think now coming back to it, this is a 3-2 football team. The Atlanta Falcons are now 3-2. You can still split this, have a better overall record, make some noise and win that division. But I think the Atlanta Falcons, these are the two teams in this division that were looking neck and neck. And the New Orleans Saints. Are they going to make a move for Devontae Adams? Are they going to get back in this thing? Get Derek Carr back flowing? What is that going to look like? I think Alvin Kamara is having a great season. So just that right there, feeling very good about where you're at right now in this division. Like I said, when you get Bucky Irvin, he's your 4th-round rookie. He's running the football. You get Rachaad White. He comes in there. He runs the football. He catches it out of the backfield. And then Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, they were winning their one-on-ones. Cade Otton was getting down the seam a little bit, catching some passes. So I think when I look at that, I feel good about it. They were getting the screen game going. A lot of things were looking good with this offense. And also, Sterling Shepard, he had a big-time touchdown. Now, he could have had another one. Baker Mayfield missed him early down the football field. That could have been a touchdown. But overall, just a very good game for them. And I think defensively, you want to get Antoine Winfield Jr. back. You want to get Kalijah Cansey back. And even for the Atlanta Falcons, they missed Troy Anderson. That 6'4", freakish athletic linebacker in the middle of the field. They missed that. And you saw that in this football game with the runs. They had J.D. Bertrand in there. He's their rookie linebacker alongside Caden Ellis, who's more of a veteran. He came over. But I think looking at that, it's just both of these teams want to get a little more healthy. That's something going down the line because if you had Kalijah Cansey in this football game, Vita Vea, now when Atlanta tries to slide their line, and that's really how some of these sacks happen because it's Bijan Robinson. He's great in pass pro, but one time he got caught against Logan Hall and one time he got caught against Vita Vea. Do you really want Bijan Robinson blocking Vita Vea one-on-one? And it's because they're trying to slide the protection. They got 6 guys up on the line of scrimmage. Now, for the offensive line, okay, who's blitzing? And then we're going to drop these guys out, run the stunt behind it with our defensive end and our 3-tech. Now the offensive lineman is just all over the place. They slide Bijan's one-on-one. So that was some good stuff that I saw from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think really for Todd Bowles, man, this was a very tough day. A very tough day just for Kirk Cousins to connect like he did. And I think they were the dictator in this football game. Zach Robinson had the number in this football game because whether it was cover 2, whether it was cover 2 man, whether it was cover 3 sky, whether it was any type of look that they tried to run, cover 1, it just didn't work because they dialed up all the answers and they dialed them up at the right time. They had a screen game going a little bit. They were able to get down the football field. Darnell Mooney, man, I'm telling you, Drake London had a great game. I gave him his props. I think he's getting a lot better, especially with recognizing where to sit in these zones, using his big body, playing basketball a little bit. He did have the basketball background at USC. Kyle Pitts getting involved, but Darnell Mooney, man, he makes things so hard because if you try to lean coverage to Drake London, if you try to double team Kyle Pitts, and then really before this game, Kyle Pitts wasn't even getting going, but I think in this football game, we saw his talent a little bit. You can't because Darnell Mooney is just such a problem. I want to know what you guys think about this game. I think overall, just a big time win for the Atlanta Falcons. They didn't want to go to 2-3. That's not how you want to start off the season, especially if you're trying to make a run in the NFC South, get into the playoffs, make some noise. So this is good to be right there at 3-2. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are at 3-2, and this is a matchup we're luckily going to see again later down in the season. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back in the film room very soon because I got to talk about one of the best receivers in football, and he's just a rookie. Thank you for watching as always. That's going to do it for today, and now, we out.